Let's get started with our blueberry brioche by measuring 2 cups of blueberries and adding half a cup of granulated sugar to that. We're also going to add 1/4 cup of cornstarch and a half a cup of water. We're going to mix all these ingredients together before taking it to our stove to cook on medium to low heat. This is going to take a little bit of time, and you're going to have to babysit it because it can burn. So you want to continuously mix this, and it's going to start getting darker because the blueberries are painting everything. So you want to start to move your blueberries around in your mixture as it's thickening, and you're going to kind of press on those blueberries to kind of like get them to pop. And that's going to continue to cook, and it's going to get nice and dark and very thick and beautiful. Once it's done, it'll look like this. It's very thick, very hot. And we're going to set this aside to cool completely before we try to incorporate this into our dough. When we're ready, we're going to heat 1.5 cups of whole milk to about 110 degrees so that we can start waking up our yeast. For this recipe, I'm using active dry yeast, not instant yeast. I'm going to mix this a little bit, and then I'm going to let it stand for about 5 minutes. We just want to make sure that our yeast is alive, and you'll know that because it gets like this, foamy and kind of thick. Now we can move on. I'm going to add 1 whole egg to this recipe. I'm going to add 1 whole stick of melted butter, like room temperature butter. I'm going to add half a cup of granulated sugar. And now I'm going to start my mixer, and I'm going to put it on speed 2, and you're going to measure about 6 cups of bread flour, and you're going to start adding them gradually. I'm using 1/4 cup measure here, and I'm going to add my flour. I'm not just going to dump 6 cups of flour because you don't always need 6 cups. So you're going to measure it, and then you're going to add it gradually. What you're looking is for your dough to congeal and become one solid mass. That happens when you create gluten. So that's what we're looking for. And that takes time. This recipe is not something you can just pull together in 1 hour and have it baked and ready. It doesn't work that way. This needs time to rest and ferment and all the things. So we're going to keep on adding bread flour, and we're going to watch it. At this point, most of our ingredients are mixed together, and I'm going to add 1 whole tablespoon of kosher salt. I don't add my salt before because I don't want to run the risk of killing my yeast. So I wait till all my ingredients are incorporated and add my salt and continue to mix. A shaggy dough is forming, and it's starting to kind of congeal and kind of come together. We're going to watch it, continue to add bread flour as needed. Now I'm going to watch my dough as she starts to come together, and you're going to see that she starts to pull away from the sides and the bottom of the bowl. This takes time. You're going to see it. I'm going to add another 1/4 cup of flour, and I'm going to watch her. At this point, my dough is coming together. I'm not going to add any more flour. I'm going to set an 8-minute timer, and I'm going to let it go on speed 2. Once our 8 minutes have elapsed, you're going to notice that your dough has come together completely. It's a solid dough. We're going to stop our mixer and take off our hook. And now I'm going to put my hand in the mixer, and I'm going to make sure that no ingredients come back up. If ingredients come up, you probably need more mixing, or you probably need a bit more flour. I'm going to let it rest for 1 whole hour. Once that hour has elapsed, we're going to deflate our dough and pull it. Perfect. Right in our bowl, we're going to pull our dough. Pull inwards, drop, grab all the corners, pull inwards, drop. What you're looking for is for it to give you a little bit of resistance. Once it gives you resistance, then you can stop and let it rest for about 5 more minutes. When our 5 minutes have elapsed, we're going to start to shape and form our dough. We're going to take it out of the mixing bowl, and I'm not using excess flour here. I'm not using any flour, but if you don't feel safe and you want to add a bit of flour, go right ahead. I just don't think it's necessary. So I'm going to give my dough some shape, start to deflate it. And then I'm going to bring in my rolling pin. Just looking for it to be in like a rectangle shape. So I'm going to continue to stretch my dough with my rolling pin. Take your time here. As you can see, my dough is not sticking, so I'm going to continue to work with it and stretch it out. This makes 2 brioche loaves, so I cut some for a different recipe here. So I'm going to continue to stretch it out. And now I'm going to add my blueberry filling. It's cooled completely, so now we're ready to add that. Now I'm ready to fold my dough. I'm going to fold it once and then fold the other corner inwards, just like this. And then I'm going to seal those edges. I'm going to turn my dough so it's easier to show you when I cut it. I'm going to take my loaf pan and set it closer. And now I'm going to take a sharp knife and I'm going to make 2 cuts. What you want is 3 whole pieces, 3 long pieces. Take your time here. This takes time. Don't rush it. It is okay. It's a bit messy, and that's okay. It's part of the recipe. Perfect. We're going to separate those pieces. If we need to bring our knife back in, you go ahead and do so. So what we're going to do is braid. So I'm not a perfect braider by any means. Just braid this. It'll look beautiful no matter what after you bake it. So take the pieces, interlock them, and just braid away. This is a bit messy, and that is part of the fun. When you get to the end, you kind of want to wrap those pieces together so it doesn't undo itself in the oven while it's baking. I'm pulling on both corners. And now we're going to put into our loaf pan to ferment and rise one last time before we egg wash and we bake. So I'm going to show you here. I'm going to kind of tuck it under itself. This is where you want to maneuver it now before you let it rise. Perfect. Now she's going to rise for 30 minutes and we'll be back. After your 30 minutes have elapsed, she is puffy and gorgeous. We're going to egg wash her. 1 egg, 1.5 tablespoons of whole milk. And we want to be really careful because you've put a lot of effort into rising this and she could deflate if you're too harsh. So you want to take your time and egg wash. Perfect. I'm going to put my loaf pan on an actual baking sheet because it's kind of flimsy and I don't want it to be wobbling in the oven. I baked it 400 degrees for 45 minutes and voila, she's absolutely beautiful. And the worst part of this recipe is allowing this to cool. You really want this to cool before you cut into it. I promise it's worth it. Once she's cooled completely, we're going to cut into it so I can show you the inside. This is one of the easiest doughs to learn to work with. She's very forgiving And it is so beautiful and so delicious. It's so wonderful. Very, very pillowy. You can make French toast, you can make sandwiches. It's just so good. Look at that. Those swirls of blueberry on the inside. Very soft. Enjoy, guys. Bye.